and welcome to Search Engine Optimization Fundamentals and Best Practices. I'm Rebecca May, and I'm excited to be here today. Let's quickly go over the agenda. Today, you will learn how to generate traffic to your business through SEO. During our time today, we will discuss the most important topics related to SEO, so you will leave prepared to start generating more visits to your website. I urge you to keep a notepad handy so you can jot down ideas for your business as we go through today. We have a lot to discuss, so let's get started. Before we start, allow me to quickly introduce myself. I have over 15 years experience in SEO, and I live and work in Sweden. You can probably tell by my accent I'm not a native Swede, and I've actually moved here from the US, so I've had the pleasure of working with businesses all over the world. I have worked with businesses that have recognizable names such as Sotheby's International Realty, McAfee, Berkshire Hathaway, and more. I have also created and designed the SEO certification program for UC Davis, which is the first SEO program recognized by a higher learning institution. I currently consult and regularly offer SEO workshops on marketing-related topics. Let's dive into the importance of SEO. Before we get too far, let's just do a quick check to define some terms. SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. Practicing SEO allows you to attract visitors to your website from search engines like Google. And as we dive in, I really want to highlight a popular but relevant quote in the SEO community. The best place to hide a dead body is on the second page of Google. If you want your business to be discovered, you have to be on the first page. In fact, 95% of searches stay on the first page of Google and never continue to the second page. This is why SEO is so critical. There are many benefits to SEO. It's the most affordable marketing channel and drives users looking for your product or service directly to your website. It exposes your brand to more people and brings in leads that are pre-qualified because they're already looking for what you have to offer. Unfortunately, not a lot of businesses practice SEO. People think SEO is too confusing or too technical. It can be, otherwise I would be out of a job. But today, we're going to discuss the things you can do to greatly improve your organic visibility. After today, you will have the keys to start improving your SEO immediately. Let's take a quick moment to understand SEO. SEO focuses on improving your visibility in organic search results. Organic results are the ones highlighted in green here on the graph, while paid results are the ones you'll see at the very top of a search page. These are highlighted in red. These are ads, and you have to pay Google to show these to users. You'll actually be charged every time somebody clicks on one of those results and goes to your website. These will usually say ad, very small, next to the search result. Otherwise, they blend in very well with organic. In addition to the first page receiving most of the traffic, the first organic position of Google also receives the most clicks, or also called visits. The first organic results will generally receive close to 32% of all clicks that'll happen on that search page. And that number decreases from there. Once you get midway through the page, the click-through rate, which is basically the amount of people who see your result versus the amount of people who click on your result and go to your website, will drastically decrease. These results halfway down the page are what are called below the fold. This means that a user has to scroll down to see the rest of the results. Generally, people mainly interact with content above the fold, so that's where you want your business to be shown. The most important things you need to know about how to improve your SEO today are creating great, consistent content, keeping your ideal user in mind, and building authority and trust. let's get started with a discussion on what I mean by great consistent content. Today, we will discuss important things to consider when creating content and how you can find content ideas that'll bring people to your website. Creating consistent quality content meets many objectives, but in short, it drives traffic to your site to showcase your expertise. That then builds trust and brand recognition, so your users will return to your site over and over again. Eventually, that content will convert these potential customers to actual customers. Your content needs to match user intent, which means identifying what problems people are seeking solutions for, and then crafting content that answers those problems and questions. When referencing content, I want to take a moment to define what exactly I mean. Content can be in many forms. A common example is blog articles, which are a great way to attract users looking for answers for specific topics. The more blog posts and articles that you create, the more traffic you will acquire for them. Another type of content is your standard web page. These are basically different sections of your website. This could be your home page, an about page, or even areas like FAQ pages. All of these pages have the potential to target specific parts of the user journey and bring those people to your website. In order to create good content that ranks, the first step is really learning about your ideal customer. You have to go deep and understand their concerns and motivations. What problems are they experiencing that are causing them to turn to Google to seek out a solution? Then you can be there to provide a solution through the content that you create. The next important thing to remember is specificity. If you are an accountant, for example, focus in on particular topics and niches that you can provide the best solutions for. People will rarely search for something broad like accountant and then convert. The more specific you can be, the better you can address their needs. For example, as an expat, I would look for international tax accountants to help me understand all of the different rules and regulations I need to be aware of, especially for help with specific questions related to filing my taxes. So targeting keywords and topics related to this area would help people like me discover your services. For example, as an expat with specific questions, I might ask things like, do I need to report my U.S. earnings to the local governing tax authority? If so, how do I do that? What are tax rates for U.S. expats? Will I pay taxes in both countries? If you were an accountant and you just created a blog titled How to File Your Taxes, that would be trying to speak to everyone who needs to do any kind of taxes anywhere in the world. That would be very competitive, and it would be very hard to rank for and unlikely to create the trust you need by showcasing your expertise in that specific area. By understanding my concerns, the specific questions I have, and how I formulate these questions, you can create content that answers those queries. That will rank highly, and that will make me think, wow, I really need to work with these guys. This brings us to discussing keywords. There's a lot of mystery around keywords, so let's develop a good understanding. When it comes to keywords, there is a lot to consider. Everything from the user intent to how competitive or seasonal the keyword is can play a role. This is often a whole workshop in itself. So one thing to keep in mind is to match user intent as closely as possible. Let's discuss these three key areas of intent, quality, and popularity in more detail. When identifying keywords, it's good to assign an intent to the keyword. This allows you to prioritize when and how to create content that matches that user need. People search with various intents. Usually, these are within one of three categories. They can be transactional, when users have an intent to buy something, informational, when users have an intent to learn something, or navigational, when people are searching for a specific brand or a specific product. Ideally, you want to create content that addresses all of these different needs. That way, regardless of where the user is in their journey, they can become familiar with your brand and start seeing that brand repetition and gain trust. Chances are good that they will perform all of these other searches. So the more trust you build, the more times a user goes to your site, the more chance they'll have of converting at a later time. Next, you want to assess the quality of a keyword. To do this, you want to consider things like specificity and competitiveness. First, consider, is this keyword specific enough? Usually, the more specific it is, the longer it is. I encourage you to think of 3 to 4 word phrases to use as keywords. For example, if I needed a new pair of running shoes, I wouldn't simply search for shoes. I would add modifiers until I found exactly what I needed. Either women's running shoes or maybe even one in my favorite color. Along with specificity, you are lowering the competitiveness of that keyword. Everyone who sells shoes wants to rank for shoes, but then unfortunately, only the biggest brands have the best shot at doing so, and even then, it's pretty competitive. By being more specific, you're increasing your chance at ranking, but also drawing in the right users looking for your product at the right time. Along with intent and competitiveness, consider other topics such as seasonality or trendiness. Sometimes jumping on trending topics can give you an extra boost in rankings, even for a short time, which can help people become more familiar with your brand. Seasonality is also a factor. If it's seasonal, it's important to understand the best time of year to publish that type of content. I would caution you, don't avoid keywords just because they're seasonal and popular only during a short time of year. Generally, these tend to draw in a lot of traffic and they tend to convert very well. You can use an amazing free tool called Google Trends by Google to uncover more information about keywords. You can find it by going to trends.google.com. This tool will help you look at seasonality as well as provide other great topic insights. Searching for running shoes in the UK shows that there are some spikes here and there, but overall it remains relatively stable. The increase in interest from about 2020 to 2021 was probably COVID related, as less people could visit the gym and were looking for other methods of working out. You can also compare similar phrases. Let's say you were curious how running shoes compared to a different but similar term like jogging shoes. If we add jogging shoes to the section at the top, we can see that running shoes tends to be much more widely used. This will help you when creating content and identifying how to target the right words that your customers are actually using. Back to seasonality, let's use a little bit of a more seasonal term so we can see a better example. In this example, I used Christmas sweaters. So for this example, we can see that searches start to trend upward mid to late October. This means if you wanted to publish an article about something like Christmas sweaters, the best time to publish that would actually be in early October. This gives Google time to find the content, analyze it, and index it for the appropriate keywords ahead of when people start their searches. We can also see that over the past 5 years, there's a definite decline in interest in terms like Christmas sweaters. So this might prove useful when analyzing what type of topics to prioritize for your blog or website. Google Trends provides a wealth of useful information. You can also see regions and sub-regions where these searches are more popular. For example, Northern Ireland is really into their Christmas sweaters. You can even drill deeper into any of these areas and see smaller regions. Let's say that you owned a brand selling Christmas sweaters all over the UK. With this information, you might look at creating content around topics like the most popular Christmas sweaters in Ireland, or stock more Christmas sweaters with distinct Irish designs or phrases to appeal to this audience. You can also use this as inspiration for other content topics. For example, Christmas sweaters may be declining in interest, but topics like scarves are picking up interest. And on the subject of Christmas sweaters, both couples Christmas sweaters and funny Christmas sweaters seem to be holding interest. When you create content around a specific subject that is addressing a keyword or search query that the user is typing into Google, and the more closely your content includes phrases that match that search query and match that intent, the better chance you have of ranking for that content. So what are some more ways of identifying user needs and how they may phrase things? One of the best ways is to analyze your existing customers. Take note of what words and phrases they use when asking questions. These may be different than the lingo you use internally. Take note of what questions they ask. If you have a contact form on your website, this is a great place to mine user questions that you can create content around. You can then add this content to Google Trends and analyze it at a deeper level. The second option is online research. Using communities like Reddit or Quora can provide a goldmine of valuable user questions. You can also use Google's own free tools like analyzing the autocomplete feature of the search bar and looking at the areas of people also ask for related searches that you've typed in. If these sound a little bit confusing to you, don't panic. We're going to go through some specific examples. If we continue with the theme of international tax accountants, we can see that Reddit has a specific community called Expat Finance where people post questions they have. If you're unfamiliar with Reddit, it's basically a huge forum for people all around the world to talk and ask questions about any subject imaginable. Many of these questions would provide ideas for blog posts for your business. There are so many communities on Reddit dedicated to specific topics that you can find inspiration for your content regardless of your industry. I suggest as a next step, looking around Reddit for groups that your potential customers may hang out in. Also, try Quora for the same thing. Google Autocomplete can also give suggestions based on what users are actively searching for. The Google Autocomplete feature works based on once you start typing a search query into Google, you'll notice that Google will start recommending similar words and phrases based on what you typed in. These recommendations are based on popular search queries relevant to the beginning of the search query you've started to type. So Google's identifying all of these relevant topics and trying to predict what you might want. In this example, I stuck with something simple, but I suggest trying a few different queries related to your business to see what comes up here and start getting inspiration. A surprising result is that people are searching for tax accountants for taxi drivers, which is a very niche topic that one could write about to attract new clients. Once you complete a search, you can also look in the search results for this people also ask box of questions, which lets you see other related questions people are searching for. Usually this will start small with 2 to 3 questions, but as you interact with them and start clicking on them, more and more questions will start to display based on what Google has identified that you've clicked on. These will give some great examples for what people are searching for, what phrases and words they're using, and great inspiration for your blog or articles. Once you've identified potential content topics that address user needs and made a specific note of words and phrases they are using, you can then incorporate these into the content on your website. You can use these in blog posts, making sure to use them in areas like the title tag, headings, and throughout the content. You can use them in your site, also making sure to use those keywords in important areas like the title of the page, and making sure to use that again 3 to 4 word phrase that's really specific. So always remember something like international tax accountant or women's red shoes versus something like shoes to get really specific. Make sure that each page has a unique purpose to reinforce that theme of that topic and that keyword. If you have an FAQ section, you can add these questions to your FAQ section and also reference any blog posts around the similar topic you found in that FAQ. So that way users can click on that, read the topic, and just engage more with your website and its content. And offsite, sharing blog posts, sharing information across social channels, networking with other websites to see if they can promote your blog content is all really helpful toward improving your visibility and your traffic. So we've covered a lot very quickly. Let's briefly touch on authority and what that is in SEO. Having good website authority is critical to ranking well for all of the great content that you've now produced. Google assigns a secret form of authority to each website with the goal of ensuring it's serving the best content to users. The more authoritative you are, the better chance you have of ranking for the content that you've produced. So how do you earn authority? Authority is primarily earned through acquiring links from other websites to your website. The more websites that link to you, the more authority you are granted. You should also be sure to get links from relevant sites. For example, an accountant would want links from other finance-related sites to earn more authority. If, for example, gardening websites or clothing websites were to link to a website about finance or accounting, that could be seen as a little spammy and not have any benefit. You can also try to obtain links through a couple methods, such as offering to guest blog on other relevant sites, looking at really trending topics that might get picked up by the media, and more. Publishing this type of content that tends to get a lot of media interest or users sharing to their communities can really help with the links. For example, if you owned a brand selling clothing items in the UK, you might want to survey a couple hundred customers on their favorite year-round wardrobe staples and then write an article about that. That might get picked up by local news outlets or linked to on fashion blogs and generate a lot of authority for your website. One of the best ways to start earning links is just networking with other people in your industry and looking for ways that you can maybe share content to their blog or they can share content to your website. This conference may be a great opportunity to meet people and start thinking of ways that you can start acquiring links and authority. Let's also discuss trust. Trust is also important. It's not directly related to Google's authority score, but it is something Google will judge and can impact your rankings. Think of anything you can do to your site to make it more trustworthy and friendly in the eyes of both users and search engines. This means doing things like making sure your content loads fast, making sure users can easily discover that content through linking to it throughout your site, and adding trust factors like testimonials and reviews. Now that we've touched on authority, let's discuss local search. Local SEO basically is optimizing your business presence for local searches. So let's dive into that a little bit. Many of you have local businesses and are interested in attracting local foot traffic or customers. In these cases, it's essential to optimize for what's called local SEO. This way you can appear in places like Google Maps when someone performs a search. If you operate online only and don't really have any local clients, this area may be less important to you. So let's discuss how to get started with local SEO. Step 1 would be setting up a profile on Google Business. It's free and you can do so at google.com/business. From here, you can search for your business if it's already listed and then start managing it, or go through the process and create your business listing. Either way, start by clicking Manage Now to get started, and Google will walk you through the steps that you need to take of finding your business or creating your new listing. I won't take you through all the steps here. They're pretty self-explanatory, but I will mention a couple of important things you want to keep in mind. When creating your business listing and filling out all of the areas that Google will have for you, such as about info, images, Q&A, all of that, you want to keep some key factors in mind when filling out these areas. Make sure to fill out these areas with as much information about your business as possible. Add images of your business, add your opening times, add Q&A, and more. Another thing to remember is to make sure that you have the same address on your website as you are listing in your Google My Business profile. This can be on your Contact Us page, an About Us page, in the footer of your website, multiple places. It doesn't really matter where on your website you have it, as long as Google can find it and match that to your business listing on Google My Business profile. Google will want to see that these match to better verify that the listing you're creating and your website are connected. Make sure to also monitor and respond to questions that users may ask that come in through your Google business listing. This Google business listing allows people to type in like FAQs, and Google will collect that for you. You can even start by populating this yourself with a couple questions that you think users are most likely to ask. That way, Google will already have something to display to potential customers who are looking for your business. Some other important points to consider are positive reviews are very important to ranking well in local search. They're not only important to ranking well, but the more positive reviews you have, the more likely a customer is going to see your result and want to do business with you versus another local or nearby result for the same type of business. You should always encourage users to leave positive reviews and make it as easy as possible for them to do so. However, I really want to let you know that it's important to never incentivize users to leave reviews. This means don't offer them discounts in exchange for a review. Don't give them a free coffee in exchange for a review. This is against Google's terms of service and can get you in a lot of hot water and can even potentially get your business banned from local search. So don't do that. Be very careful. A lot of businesses I've heard of have gotten pinged by this. So I really want to specify you want to let customers know of their importance of leaving positive reviews, remind them to do so at every stage of the user journey, but don't incentivize them. So that wraps up our presentation. We have discussed a lot today. We went over, user intent and how to attract users through the content you create, how to get user ideas through tools like Google Trends, Reddit, Quora, Google itself, and more. So now you can take a lot of those ideas and formulate some key next steps to start optimizing your SEO. If you just took 3 things with you that you could start doing immediately, I would say start identifying those subtopics of your business. So for example, accountants, if you work with international customers, if you're maybe a photographer and you work with clients that want wedding photography and engagement photography, think of all of the different subtopics of your business and then think of 3 to 4 keyword phrases that you can use to describe those areas. Next, you can go to Google and start typing in searches to see what comes up and start getting great content ideas. You can go to Reddit and more. The next thing I want you to consider is while you're at this conference, use this as an opportunity to start thinking of linking ideas, to start generating authority to your website. You can use the blog content topics ideas you came up with in the first step to think of topics that might be relevant to write a post for somebody else's site. That'll help them drive traffic to their site, and then that can link to your site and drive traffic to you as well. So think of all of these areas where you can work together with other businesses in maybe similar, but not necessarily strictly competing industries to start earning authority. So just some last takeaways. Remember, Content is vital to attracting users. Identify your target customer and match content to their intent. Use communities and tools to research your target customer. Use specific keywords that you can effectively compete for. Remember, these are more 3 to 4 word phrases and not single words. Attract links from other sites through direct outreach or creating great content. And if you're a local business, sign up for Google Business to optimize your listing for free today. Thank you so much for attending this presentation today. I hope you're walking away with some great next steps and tips you can use today to start generating more traffic to your business. If you have any questions, I am here and happy to answer them for you. I'd love to discuss this further and see what we can come up with together to help solve any questions or challenges you're having with your SEO. So let's take it from there.